Hello, and welcome to this episode of Show Me the Code. Today we're going to look at a JavaScript library that lets you run virtual machines with VirtualBox. Stay tuned. Today's just not my day. I just recorded a couple of minutes of footage. It is not my video. It's been a long time. I've been coding on the library I'm about to show you today. And I recorded some footage showing you guys the library I've been coding on. But it turned out to be just me and not the code. And this show is not Show Me the Jonathan, it's Show Me the Code. So I'm going to show you the code right now. Yeah, there we go. So now I've got the OBS transitions correct. This is Node-Virtualbox. It is a library that interfaces with the VBox Manage command line utility to, as the title states, manage VirtualBox VMs. There's lots of features in the VBox Manage CLI, partly because it's part of Oracle Cloud's CLI. Excuse me. And so yeah, this is how it is right now. It's at version 1.0.2, and we are working on bringing it up to version 1.1.0 and moving to promises instead of callback functions as a means to interact with the CLI. Let me show you what I mean. Here's the code. I checked it out already. I'm working on it. I've got unsaved, yeah, we'll get to this part of the thing, right? But right now I'm gonna we're on the 1.1.0 branch right now. Clear that out. Save this as whip on the enumerate function. Commit that. Push it up. Switch to master. Yay! All right, so this is VirtualBox, Node-Virtualbox. This is where we configure and export our logger. This is where the actual API is. So there's lots of cool stuff in here. We'll go over this more in detail. And then this is a scan code, basically a JSON object that has an array of bytes, or maybe an array of, it's an array of a character code with one argument. So these allow you to send keys to the virtual machine with the keyboard put scan code method. And yeah, so this requires the exec file method from the Node standard library, which then we call here. We get the version from there, and then this command function does all the magic. So we take the binary, and then the command is an array of arguments. So in this case, the binary can only be allowed versions, which is VBox control and VBox manage binary, which can only ever be VBox manage exe, VBox manage, or VBox manage. That's for security reasons, because if you just passed a string rather than an array of arguments, you could arbitrarily inject scripts onto a Linux system, for instance. And we want this to be able to be used on web servers to run VirtualBox machines. There's also a VirtualBox web API server. It's a VBox web server, I believe. VBox web serve, yeah. So VBox Web Serve is something we'll look into in the future, because it's a SOAP-based web server that comes built with VirtualBox, and it'd be good to use that as a means to interact with virtual machines instead of the CLI. But in the meantime, this works pretty well. We've got all these tests that sort of go through all the different scenarios. So yeah. That's sort of how we're working right now, and you'll notice that this is very callback heavy code. So everything gets passed a callback function, and that's how you run the commands. You list the machines, you're going to get a callback with all the virtual machines listed. It's not the prettiest library, but I've enjoyed using it, and I think it will make a good start for my front end for virtual machine stuff, although I may try the API based one first. But yeah, that's the basics of how it is. Now we'll switch back over to our 1.1.0 branch. You'll notice the logging JS file is gone right off the bat. The scan code still remains, but the what? Get rid of that. So yeah, we still require exec file, but now we have default executor, which returns a promise. So this is going to be a little bit different than how we've done it in the past. So right now, the default VBox manage function runs this exec file command stuff, right? And then we send the error standard out, standard error back to the callback instead of returning this explicitly. So that's good. That will help us move towards promise API in the future when we're not doing just a minor version. But this minor version also adds some configuration options. So you'll notice that we've also moved to, instead of just exporting functions in the master branch version, the version 1.0.2 version, you'll notice that we have a class-based system. And usually you have to instantiate your classes, but in this case, we also have these other classes as well. We can move those out into separate files at some point. So this is how we used to do it. We would just create an object and export each function individually. Now we're creating an instantiation immediately so that our integration tests still work. You can just require the VirtualBox lib and it'll still work the way you expect it to. No breaking API changes there. We also added a create method as well as exporting just the class by itself. And this create method shows some of the configuration changes we made. So you can customize how the exec file function is run. The interface is basically you need to accept an array of arguments that returns an error, standard out, standard error output from Node.js standard library. And that has to return a promise that resolves those three properties to the promise. Or rejects them, depending on if there's an error or not. And so that's how the executor works. And then the logger is basically a console, not a console. It is a log4j.s compliant interface, so that you have, if you've got a like Winston.js is a popular logger, if you want to use that one. If you want to use like a Nest logger or something, Nest.js logger. If it's got info, I think info is the main one we use. And then I think debug's in there in a couple of places. But you need the standard log levels of log, info, debug, warn, error, etc. I think we'll define that interface a little more tightly as we go, but at least you'll need logging, you'll need info and debug to satisfy the interface. But if you don't want to supply those, we provide defaults. So you'll notice we're using default values here. So we've got a default executor and a default logger. And the default logger takes the default logging config, configures with log4j.s, and returns the logger of VirtualBox. We're on an older version of log4j.s. We'll probably move towards a more standard interface as we go along, and just certainly not implement our own logger, but we'll figure out one that's pretty popular. Probably move towards Winston is what I'm thinking. So yeah, one thing I did in 1.0.2 that I wanted to show you as well is that we've got these jest tests now. So the executor helps us run tests because we don't actually have to accept the arguments. We can just return a promise that resolves to values we want to test against. So in this case, I had a bug where macOS and macOS machine would not be recognized as macOS in the library. So I had to make sure that it would handle both cases. And writing tests like this is pretty good to make sure that happens. I am going to have to create a helpers folder so that I can export a logger, and we will take the default config, we'll go here, we'll say this is a constant, and what do we want to export it? We'll just do const default login config, and then we'll do export const. We'll do log for js.configure default login config, and in this case we'll do debug because we want the testing stuff to come through, and then we'll export const logger equals log for js.get logger, and we'll just call this a test logger, a VBox test logger, and then we'll use that in our tests. Const, I guess we can import, right? We can import logger from /helpers logger, and instead of the default login config here, we can just pass in logger, and that will satisfy the interface. I'm doing this because these tests were breaking and I don't want to submit a PR without having passing tests. So let's run npm run test. This should work. Uh-oh. Just encountered an unexpected token. Oh, import. Okay, so we'll just do const logger equals require. And that should just allow us to require. We may have to do module.exports. Yeah. Unexpected token export. Yeah, so we'll just have to do module.exports.logger. Yeah, and then it'll work. Log for js.configure. I have to require log for JS. So instead of that, we can go const log for JS equals require log for JS. Yay! Now it'll all work. Yay! It totally worked. Wonderful. So now I can add this, and say fix test, and now my email should receive a passing Travis CI build. But during the 28 minutes of footage I was recording, right? I got into this enumerate function in the guest property class. So yeah, we're basically we've got a callback heavy library as it stands now, by moving to an underlying promise approach, we can move towards a breaking API change. So version 2.0.0 will have all promises. So instead of requiring you to pass in callback functions, it will instead return the full promise object that then we can operate on. We may also change some of the return values to be more parsable, machine readable. So yeah, that's sort of what I was doing when I realized I was looking at the wrong, like OBS was not set up correctly. So in our guest property class, we've got this enumerate function, and that's what this all this big comment stuff was. And I was looking at regexer and Oboe Shoes games to try and parse out each of these parts on the line. So let's see, they've got a cheat sheet, they've got a community patterns, start, stop. Basically, I wanna start parsing at name. I wanna slice up this, and then I wanna slice up this, and I wanna slice up this, and then I wanna slice up this. So obviously it's comma separated. Excuse me, except for the part where we get to this flags object, which is an array that is also comma separated. So that's where it gets a little tricky to parse. So yeah. So maybe regex will help. Colon. Dot star. Basically, I want to start at the name, go until I hit the first comma. Okay, so I kind of got a little in the weeds with this function over here, but I was able to get it running, and now it looks like this. So every time we get a property, we've got that big long name string that has the slash separated sort of namespace key value key. Now we can go to the very end and say, okay, that's the key, that's the namespace. So really cool. That allows us to filter and sort of slice the guest property data as it's coming through. So that's all done. That's all fixed and everything. So yeah, I think the thing I did to fix the tests will work. I'm not sure if I caught that on this one or not, but I had to create a helper logger so that when we're passing in a new logger, it sets it correctly. So let me go and see on travisci.org. Travis CI node virtual leave. That's good, but I want to see mine. So let me unlock my vault over here. Okay, now I'm signed in. But as you'll notice, this did not work because the test passed, but the lint did not, so we will have to fix all of these errors with the JS hint stuff. So yeah. Line 92. Go all the way up to line 92. Now we're going to fix the linting errors, and then we'll set up a pull request, I guess. So we'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, I just pushed it. We're just kicking off the next job. The linting got fixed. It actually showed some bugs in the code as well, so that helps out. And we'll see if it passes. So yeah, I'm not sure if we need to do this because it'll yeah, that might be an optimization we can do later on. One of the reasons that I put this new enumerate function in enumerate is to put a JS.doc comment over it so I could look into JS.doc and see how that all works. Function to return an array of this object. Cool. So yeah, this is the library. I think we'll go ahead and open a pull request for this once this build passes. Yeah, just needs one more. It's running the tests, running the lint. All good. Done. Awesome. So now we can go ahead and open a pull request. Hub.com. Compare and pull request. Oh, before I do that, what is the package at? It's still at 1.0.2. Yep. Okay, so we'll run npm version help. So we'll do npm version 1.1.0. Oh, it's not clean, huh? Oh, okay. Commit documentation changes. Now we can run npm version. So now we're at, if we look at our git log, our last commit was, let's refresh this, 1.1.0. I'm not sure if that actually updated the package JSON or not. Yeah, it did. Awesome. So git push. Git log. Wow, okay. Let's refresh. Preview. Can I compare? logging and execution methods moves to a class-based implementation, sets the stage for a new promise-based API. Awesome. This will do that. This will do that. This is going to get moved to 2. So let me edit. No, not that. This milestone's going to be v2. Because that's going to have to break the API. Yep. All good. So far, so good. Closes 81, 79, and 70. It's more like 81 and 70. This address, what? There we go, addresses. Cool, so that's our PR. It'll set the stage for what comes next, and yeah, I'm glad y'all could join me for this episode of Show Me the Code, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it and want to see more videos like it, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell so you get alerted when I post a new video. Also, don't forget to hit like and leave a comment telling me what you thought of the video so I can keep improving them. Thanks again for watching.